Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and found that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance. She ran and found Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and she said, "They've taken the Lord's body out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." Peter and the other disciple started out for the tomb. They were both running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He stooped and looked in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he didn't go in. Then Simon Peter arrived and went inside. He also noticed the linen wrappings lying there, while the cloth that had covered Jesus' head was folded up and lying apart from the other wrappings. Then the disciples who had reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For until then they hadn't understood the scriptures that said Jesus must rise from the dead. It's Easter Sunday. And today we celebrate what the women at the tomb and Jesus' disciples discovered thousands of years ago, that Jesus is not in the grave. He's risen from the dead. He's alive today. He's conquered sin and death. Happy Easter. I love Easter. I love doing Easter egg hunts. I love these. I love black jelly beans. I got some black jelly beans here. These are the best jelly beans. I love black jelly beans. I got a whole bag here. And here's how you know that black jelly beans are the best flavor of jelly bean. Because there's no other jelly bean flavor that is sold in its own separate bag. This is it. This is the only one. Anybody else love black jelly beans? Anybody? God, nobody else loves. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Because I was going to give black jelly beans away. I got tons of them. Here, Bo, you take some black jelly beans. There you go. Anybody else want black jelly beans? These are all going to go to me. All right, fair enough. Here we go. I love black jelly beans. That's the good stuff. If you don't like black jelly beans, I'm not sure what's wrong with you, to be honest. Well, that's the good stuff. I also love this. I love these mini Cadbury eggs. They got that candy coating and that chocolate shell. Anybody love chocolate? We have chocolate fans? Oh, okay. We got chocolate for everybody tonight. So, oh no, Emily's going to hand out some chocolate for you tonight. And everybody gets one. You get some chocolate. If you can't have black jelly beans, you might as well have chocolate. Leaving jelly beans all over the floor. Black jelly. I can't believe I'm the only one tonight. That's just not right. I love Easter. Get those. You open them up. Eat them tonight. They're good for you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I love Easter because, I really love Easter because this is the day that changes everything. Now you might be asking yourself, like, how does Easter change anything? Or why does it matter? You know, okay, even if Jesus rose from the dead, what does that mean for my life? What does that mean for me here in Las Vegas in 2018? And I think that's a perfectly fair question. In fact, I think it's a great question. And because even Jesus' disciples didn't really get it when Jesus was talking about dying and rising from the dead. I mean, Jesus spent years with these people. And he'd talk about his mission on earth, and he'd talk about how one day he was going to die, but then he would come back, and he would come back to life. And the disciples had no idea in the world of what Jesus was talking about. What you talking about, Jesus? I mean, they don't have any clue at all. And sometimes they try and correct Jesus. Sometimes they just kind of like stare at Jesus with a confused look on their face, like, we don't know what's going on here. Even after they died, they still didn't get it. They didn't get it until they came running to the tomb and it was empty. They didn't understand until they looked inside and saw the burial cloths, but no body. And then it clicked. Everything was different. And today, I just want to talk a little bit about why Easter matters for you and for me. My hope is that tonight we'll begin a conversation that will continue around tables from here on out, continue with friends, at school and at work. It will continue with our family, and with each conversation that it will grow and expand in us and among us. And so today, in order to kind of grasp the significance of Easter, I want to look at a different story from earlier in Jesus' life. And so if you have a Bible, you can turn to John chapter 2. If you don't have a Bible, we want to give one to you. We believe the Bible's important and that it will transform your life, but we don't want you to take our word for it. We want you to read it for yourself and wrestle with it and explore it and question it all for yourself. And so we've got a Bible to give you. When you leave tonight, it's just out at our concierge card out there. You can also download a Bible onto your phone. You just go to bible.com/app and you can download a Bible. We're going to have the verses here on the screen. So John was a disciple of Jesus, and he wrote down an account of Jesus' life, and it's one of 4 accounts in the Bible, and we call his account John because we're not very creative at naming things. And so he wrote it, so we call it John. And this is what John records, this is chapter 2, verse 13. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. So Jesus went to Jerusalem. And in the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifices. He also saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. And Jesus made a whip with some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove out the sheep and cattle. He scattered the money changers' coins all over the floor, and he turned over tables. And then going over to the people who sold doves, he told them, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." And then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the Scriptures. "Passion for God's house will consume me." But the Jewish leaders demanded, "What are you doing? If God gave you the authority to do this, show us a miraculous sign to prove it." "All right," Jesus replied. "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." "What?" they exclaimed. It's taken us 46 years to build this temple, and you can rebuild it in 3 days?" But when Jesus said this temple, he meant his own body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered he had said this, and they believed both the Scriptures and what Jesus had said. So after Jesus is raised from the dead, the disciples remembered this story. Because this is a story, is one of the times where Jesus predicts his own death and resurrection. And this is a story that gives us a little bit of insight about why Easter matters. This story foreshadows what Jesus will accomplish on the cross. And it's set at the same time around the Jewish Passover. It's set in the same city in Jerusalem. Jesus makes his way to the temple. And the temple was this place where you could seek God. You could come to the temple with the expectation that you could meet God, where you could find what you've been looking for. And people would come from all around to seek God in this place. But there was a catch. Some people could only get in so far. The way the rulers and authorities had designed the temple, only Jewish men were allowed to the innermost part of the temple, where they could seek God and they could connect with him. If you weren't Jewish, then you had to stay farther out. You weren't allowed inside. You were kept further away from the presence of God. Not all that different from today, where we've got a lot of people seeking different things. Some of us would just say, yeah, I am seeking God. Some of us would say, I don't know what I'm seeking, but I'm looking for something in life. Maybe it's meaning, purpose, love, joy, hope. We're seeking something. Now, I believe that if you seek that same thing long enough, you end up at God. But we're all seeking something, and so often there are obstacles in our way from what we want to have in our life and where we are right now. Not all that different. So Jesus arrives at the temple, and he gets to this outer court, the place where everyone could seek God. And he gets angry, because the whole court has been turned into a marketplace. It's loud. It smells like animals. It's barely organized chaos. You see, if you're Jewish, then you got to go through another gate into another courtyard where it was a little quieter, a little closer to the most holy place of the temple. And if you were a Jewish man, then you got to seek God in an even quieter and closer place. But if you weren't Jewish, then you weren't invited. In fact, there were barricades and signs posted in multiple languages. If any non-Jew goes past this point, then you would be immediately stoned to death. There was only one place where everyone, no matter who they were or where they came from or what they had done, could seek God. And that place was filled with money changers and merchants with animals and animal excrement. And so Jesus, he can't take it. Because this is never what God intended. This would not fit with Jesus' mission on earth. And so he starts flipping over tables. He starts clearing a way to make room for everyone to see God. Everyone belongs here. Everyone gets a seat at the table. Either stop blocking the way or get out. And Jesus is causing quite the commotion. And so the religious leaders confront him. Hey you! We're in charge here. Who said you could do this? What gives you the authority? It's this crazy story. Because there's whips and tables and animals and chaos. And you might be saying to yourself, like, why is this guy even talking about it? So let me just hang in there for one moment. Let me connect it now to Easter. Jesus is making a way for everyone. Everyone to seek God. Jesus said that he came to seek and save the lost. Jesus came seeking everyone, and he's making a way for everyone to seek God. And so when the people in charge ask Jesus, what gives him the authority to make a way for everyone to seek God, Jesus says this, okay, try it. Try this. Go ahead. You go ahead and test my authority. Test my ability. You can kill this body, and in 3 days, I'll raise it up again. That's what gives me the authority. You can kill me, but I will rise again. Jesus says, I'm in charge of the guest list, and everyone's invited. No more barriers. No more stuff getting in the way of seeking God. No more determining who's in and who's out. No more telling people who gets to get close to God. I'm throwing a feast, Jesus says, and everyone gets to come to my table. How do you know that I get to do this? How do you know that I will do this? It's because of Easter Sunday. That's why Easter matters, because now everything is different. Everyone gets a seat at the table. The cross is not just an instrument of death. The cross becomes this massive table where there's a seat for everyone. Jew and Gentile, sinner and saint, white, black and brown, male and female, old and young, stripper, addict, perfectionist, atheist, agnostic, believer, everyone gets to seek God. And on Easter Sunday, when the disciples looked at the empty grave, they remembered and believed. Everyone gets to come to the table. I have a short video I'd like us to watch.
We all start on the outside looking in. This is where grace begins. We were hungry, we were thirsty, with nothing left to give. Oh, the shape that we were in. And just when all hope seemed lost, love opened the door for us. He said, come to the table. Come join the sinners who have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table. coward, to the prisoner and the soldier, to the young and to the older, all who hunger, all who thirst, all the last and all the first, all the paupers and the princes, all who fail, you've been forgiven, all who dream and all who suffer, all who loved and lost another, all the chained and all the free, all who follow, all who lead, anyone who's been let down, all the lost you have been found, all who've been labeled right or wrong, to everyone who hears this song, come join the sinners, you have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Oh, sit down and be set free. Come to the table. Come to the table. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table.
You may have grown up in church, but you've walked away from faith. You walked away because of hurt, or you walked away because someone wasn't willing to honestly talk about your questions. You and your questions are welcome. You're invited to this common table. You may have your doubts about Jesus and Christianity. In fact, they may be more than doubts. You don't have to give up your brain. You're invited to this common table. You may have more than a checkered past. Really, you've got a pretty messed up present. There's nothing that you've done, that you are doing, or that you will do that will ever take your invitation away. You're invited to this common table. You may be lonely. You have acquaintances and work friends, but you don't have friends. And you might be wondering, well, even if Jesus accepts me, will anyone else? Well, Jesus is in charge of the guest list at this church. You're invited to this common table. You may have been turned off to church. Jesus and his message are still kind of intriguing, but you don't understand the church that claims to follow Jesus. And in the age of turmoil and unholy political alliances and hot takes, you're wondering if you even want to be at this table. We need your voice and we need your presence. You're invited to this common table. You may be on a spiritual journey. Perhaps you're Muslim and you're not sure how Jesus could be the Son of God. Or maybe you're Buddhist and you're looking for the right path. Or maybe you consider yourself spiritual but not really religious. Or maybe you're just nothing. Like no label, no religion. Well, let's just walk on this journey of life for a while. Explore the life of Jesus together because you're invited to this common table. You may have grown up in church or have been following Jesus for a long time. And you're working to keep the seat at the table. And sometimes you've wondered if there will always be room for you. You're invited to this common table. Everyone. There's room at the table. And this table has everything that you need. It has healing and provision, joy, peace, hope, love, meaning, purpose. It's all here. It's all for you. You just have to accept the invitation. The Easter account says that the disciples saw and believed. And that's kind of what we get to do. We get to explore. We get to wrestle with, we get to question. And then we get to this point where I hope that we get to see and believe. Well, how do you know? How do I know that I'm invited? Well, Jesus said that he would prove it. Kill him, and 3 days later, he would rise again. And that's exactly what he did. Happy Easter. Come, join Jesus at this common table.